Hey folks, good morning. This is Rick, LaLa Farm. Today we're going to kind of do a follow-up video on a video we did back in late 2019, December of 2019, where we gave you a very preliminary walkthrough of our goat barn, livestock barn, mainly for goats. That's what we have in there. Probably we'll be adding some hogs, some pasture-raised hogs, but right now it's just goats. So when we did the original video, we were still in the process of putting the final touches on it. Had really, to that point, had started using it for feeding, but that's about it. We had some storage in here. We had just purchased our winter hay, so we had hay stored in here as well. But really hadn't yet figured out how we were going to optimally use that barn. Since that time, we have finished up the barn. 96% completed. Structurally, it's completed. What we still have to do is run the electric into it and put in some ceiling fans and lighting. So that doesn't change the structure of how we use the barn. Those are more for the creature comforts of being in the barn. Kind of got we got to run the conduit. We got the conduit running to the barn. We just haven't added the electric and hooked it up to the power supply yet. So that will be coming probably in the fall when it cools down a little bit. But what we wanted to do is kind of show you structurally kind of how we're using the barn now that we've had the better part of 8 months or so using it. We've been through one full winter in terms of storage, how we manage the goats, how we use the barn to manage the goats, how our gating systems have worked. That may not mean anything to you, but a big part of the design of this barn was the inclusion of lots and lots of gating systems that would allow us to kind of reconfigure how we reconfigure the gates depending upon the function of what we're doing. So that'll make more sense as we get into it. So without further ado, let's get going. So if you like the video, make sure you hit that subscribe button. That's important to kind of growing our channel, allows us to continue to bring you, reinforces us to continue to bring you good solid content from around the farm. Hit that subscribe button, ring that notification bell to get notification of future content. Those are really important to allowing us to continue to grow our channel and bring you the information that we really enjoy, bringing you about our homestead, our small farm, and kind of how our family interacts on that farm, showing you lots of different activities that happen around here on a day-to-day basis. So you're going to hear lots of noises in the back, chickens clucking, goats neighing, and some equipment in the background. My son, Little Rick, is over here today. He's doing some mowing, so you're going to hear that probably in the background. So we got a good mic, so I don't think that that's going to be too problematic for you. So without further ado, let's get to the barn. Thanks. So over there is the buck barn. We just finished that within the past couple of weeks. Each one of those paddocks for our 2 breeding bucks are 1 acre in size. Coming around, you come to our doe pens. See the girls over there. Out for their morning walk. I'll show you how those pens are set up in a moment. But that brings us over here to our main barn. Looking at the front of the barn, we have 2 12-foot gates that attach in the middle that will allow us to close in the gate so that we can actually bring the goats into the middle part of the barn without elopement risk. So come into the main area of the barn. This is primarily it's kind of evolved in the since we finished the barn, from when we started to when we finished the barn. when we first started using this, we were still in the process of putting the finishing touches on it. So we still hadn't really figured out how we wanted to best utilize it. We know what we needed it for, which was to kind of serve as feeding, loafing, and catch pen areas. Over winter, we had all of our winter hay stored in here, which is what we will do next year as well. For this year, we're down to next to no hay because we're coming into the summer season. We're coming into the summer season when we don't need to do a whole lot of supplementation. They do get Timothy and alfalfa pellets on a limited ration through the Advantage HD 200 feeders, and they get a combination of Timothy hay and peanut hay that we acquire locally. So you see that note that this is wide open. It's wide open. This is what our granddaughter now uses to train her show goats. She'll be showing this year in the meat class, in the dairy class, and in the showmanship competition. So you'll note going down the side, we've got all these feeders hanging up. Those feeders will come off the wall and go back onto the wall. Each feeding, which is twice a day, once in the morning, once in the afternoon. Limited ration, again, it helps us with training. Allows us to kind of get the goats all into one place at one time, kind of do a visual inspection twice a day on each one of them. And that's really important in our management style. We want to be able to look at the goats every day. Some people disagree. They want to take a hands-off approach, and I would say to each their own. We don't do it like that. So each side is a 12-foot lean-to, as I said. In this middle section, we have the kennel in the back. This kennel behind the church pew. By the way, we found that church pew at the dump. It was a great deal. It makes a great barn bench. We have our hay storage here. So we don't have a whole lot. Like I said, we don't provide a lot of supplementation now. Got a little bit of storage in the back here. These are the through the wall chicken feeders. These are the little giant chicken feeders that we really like. There's a hole cut in the wall, and they essentially walk up to the hole in the wall. We feed them, or we fill the feeders from the outside. Works really, really well. Down this back path here, this is our goat handling gate. And we'll show that in a second. So this is where we stage all of the supplies and equipment that we're going to use. Scale hangs here. We have the A&A scales that are included in the goat handling chute. So once they come up the chute, they step on the scales. We read it up here, and we do that on average about every 3 months. As well as prior to breeding and immediately coming out of breeding. We also weigh them shortly, or as shortly as we can after they have kids. And then we weigh each one of the kids at 30, 60, 90, and 120 days as well. So this becomes really vital to be able to have a good, effective way to do your goat checks, do any management that you have to on them, as well as get weights. That's a primary health indicator or means for determining or gauging or evaluating the health. So back here we have some equipment storage. This is the feed that we use for our does, and then the mineral supplements are in here, as well as the agricultural lime and the blue bucket. Every farm's got to have some animal crackers down there, tool storage, and then this is the interior entry right here, this door, into our chicken coop. I'm going to do a whole separate video on the chicken coop itself, but this is our main coop. This has about 100 birds in it. There's the 3 little holes for the feed, and then these are the nesting boxes down the wall. Watering bar on the wall down there with a gravity fed, so we catch rainwater, and that's what they consume for their water. Little bucket in the middle. Little bucket in the middle. That's free choice calcium oyster shell that they take as needed for good strong shells. This right here is a solar powered door that opens up every day at 6 a.m. and closes every day at 9 a.m. kind of keep the hens safe. This is the coop door. Notice there's no latching on the inside. So the only way you can get to this is from the outside of the coop. There's nothing on the inside. So let's walk into some of the pens now. So coming out, we have 2 entry gates. The one on the left, this pen here, used to go to the original buck pen. So this pen was originally housed Einar and Jarl, our 2 100% New Zealand Kiko herd sires. Right now we use this as an isolation pen, or we're using it as an isolation pen. This is our newest addition to the farm. This little girl was just weaned from her mother about 3 weeks ago. This is Ursula. She is the full sister to our yearling doe, Sasa, who, I don't know if you'll see her around. She's around here somewhere. But Ursula will kind of go into the breeding cycle probably in 2021. But right now she's in social isolation, goat social isolation, until we get all of her testing back comes back negative, and we just kind of keep an eye on her and make sure that all is good with her. But again, this previously was our buck pen. And this is also has a training run in there for livestock guardian dogs. Right now we've got Dixie, who is Little Rick's dog. I know she's not a livestock guardian dog. She is a healer mix. She's more of a herding dog. But our livestock guardian dogs really love to play with Dixie. She's got tons and tons of energy. So here's the original buck pen. We right now will be alternating our show goats between the other pen and this pen. Right now we're just letting this kind of grow back out in terms of force. Right now it started at about 6 inches about a month ago, and now it's up to about, in some spots, 2 foot tall. All of our pens are configured with the same automatic watering system that you saw in our in the buck pen. This is a hay feeder that we built to stand up to the. This is a hay feeder that we built to stand up to our 2 bucks, and even then, you can see that they chewed on parts of it, and so that's chicken poop. So this is held up pretty well right now. We're not using it because we don't have any animals in this paddock, but that hay feeder works pretty well. It's the only kind of on-site stationary feeder that's on the farm. Everything else is mobile. But if you look beyond this goat and sheep, the 4x4 panel here, you can see that all of our pens look very similar to this one. This is a catch pen for our bucks. So when we wanted to catch our bucks, now we'll be catching other animals. We've got this gate. Notice the pins on this gate point up, not up and down as they're supposed to. So this gate is completely removable. So if we wanted to, we just slide this gate off the hinges and we can use it wherever we want to. When we want to catch the animal, we just close this gate, put a chain on it, and then we have them contained, and we can get weights or do whatever we need to with them. But really a lot of what we have on the farm is set up very similar to this. Everything is versatile to the point where we can move things around at will to kind of meet whatever we're doing on the farm at that point in time. So now we're going into the main doe loafing area. So the does spend a lot of time up here. You know, most of the loafing area up here, it's all concrete. This is 9-inch concrete. And then we use basically it's a floor tile remover. They use in taking up old floor tile in construction applications to scrape the floor. It's a really heavy duty blade. It works perfectly on concrete for scraping these floors and allows us, instead of using a broom, it takes us a couple of minutes to now scrape out these pens. We basically scrape it down onto the ground, and then periodically we take all of this and then that goes to the compost pile. So again, you can see this building is built exactly like the buck pen. This one's a little bit more sturdy in terms of the hardware that we use. Everything in this structure is all lag bolted together. These are 2 of our 200 HD feeders. We've got 3 of these feeders. We're only using 2 of them presently. Once we put our breeding pairs together this summer, we'll probably install the 3rd one over in the old buck paddock. But really what these are for is to ration out to just about a half a pound a day of alfalfa and timothy pellets is what both of these are for. And you can see they don't overindulge themselves because they can't due to the way that these feeders are designed. So you know, at first we were super excited about using these as the primary feeders. It didn't work for the feed that we were using. It kind of turned everything to mush because the saliva on the goat's tongue didn't allow the feed to kind of keep form. So we've since kind of backed off of these for the day-to-day feed and just now provide just supplementation in those feeders. Now you can notice you're going to see chickens all over the place. All of our chickens, we got a total of 130, but there's only about 100 in this coop. They help us with parasite control, and they co-graze with the goats intentionally, and they do this all day long. They come out here, they are hunting for mites, ticks, grubs. And there's some limited research that also shows that they are useful in at least helping to control parasitic worms. Now understand that you know, grazing low down to the ground within 4 to 5, 6 inches of the ground is what leaves goats most susceptible to coming down or acquiring barber pole worms. So how much it helps with that, I don't know, but I can tell you that we don't treat with a whole lot of dewormers, and I attribute you know, a large part of that to our heavy use of chickens outside of the coop. Now they pretty much stay up here in the dirt area, but you know, I can go around and show you they're all doing their business. They stay up here and scratch most of the day. So we've got 2 of these tartar feeders, 3 of these tartar feeders that we're using in these pastures. You can see we don't put a whole lot in there because we expect them to go out and forage for most of their sustenance. So this is coming back around to the back of the barn, and this is where I was saying we've got another structure that we built onto the back. So using 4x4s on the back, we built some more loafing area and then a chicken coop right in the middle. So that whole structure on the back is another 48 feet that extends out 18 feet 16 feet from the main structure itself, and that includes additional loafing area for the does as well as the chicken coop. This is all, again, galvanized metal roofing. A little panel up on the top up there, that is the solar panel for our automatic chicken door, which is right there. And then that over there is the pipe 4-inch pipe that catches the water from the roof, and that keeps the 55-gallon jug inside of the chicken coop full of water. So here's the outside access door for the chicken coop. So this is where we were a little bit earlier, but from the inside. So here's the roosting bars. 55-gallon barrel, all gravity fed. The white pipe comes off the roof, goes into this barrel. Then I'll simply cut a hole with a tap, which gravity feeds into this watering bar. And this works wonderfully for our does. These are the nesting boxes. If you looked at one of our previous videos, we were using the Best Nest rollaway boxes, and just for our application, using an entirely free-range flock where these birds can live wherever they want, they just didn't work for us. So that's a whole another video. We can include the links for that up in the top, so you can check out that video. We did 3 of them: the original unboxing and install, and then kind of a interim review, and then this is the problem why we can't leave that door open, because this is Sassa. Remember I told you we might see Sassa? This is Ursula's full sister right here, and Sassa is a pain in the bleep because she is just an absolute nosy body and is into everybody's business. Alright, so this is the doe paddocks. We still haven't gotten to the cross fencing here yet. This is a total of about 6 to 7 acres. We're going to cross divide this, or cross fence this into, I think LaLa wants to do 3 paddocks, and then we will rotate them roughly once a month for additional kind of parasite protection. I think she said rotate them every 3 weeks for additional parasite protection. So coming around to the other side of the barn, see more chickens doing their thing, scratching, helping us with parasite protection, parasite control. Again, same tartar feeder or tartar feeder on this side, and we've got we'll be pulling these out fairly soon. These are 2 more of those red barrels. LaLa's cut them in half, and we use them for warmers. These were for the babies. We just haven't pulled them out yet. So the baby goats, when they're born, they kind of stay in here. It's kind of funny when you look in the front of it. They are stacked 3 and 4. I mean, believe it or not, we can put about, they can fit about 6 babies, 7 babies in each one of these, kind of stacked on top of one another. It's really kind of funny to watch. So these boards going across these 2 posts. If we wanted to, if we ever needed to move the 200 HD feeders, then these are the bars where we would install those feeders. We've had them over there, and depending again on how we have the barn configured, we can move them from one side or the other. We also have a 3rd one that we actually, it is installed. It's over in the show goat pen, so we'll get to that. So here is the other side of the goat handling chute. So this is the discharge. So we have some 4x4 panels that cover the discharge here. They're just hooked on with carabiners on the corners. We take that panel off, then we can discharge the animals directly back into the pasture. Same thing here. It's just another sheep and goat panel hooked to eye bolts. We take this whole panel comes off, and then we can work the goats from this side as well. So generally what we do is LaLa's on the interior of the barn. She's the one doing the injections. We rarely have to open this outside gate once we get their head up in the head chock, and they come down through that gate, and we can lock them in there. So once we got them locked into the gate, then LaLa can do her thing from the inside. But if we need to move them up the ramp, we come up here and move them up the ramp, and then we generally have a 3rd person down here kind of loading them into the ramp. Moving right along, we've got some more additional automatic waterers. This is our mineral feeding system. So this is baking soda and LaLa, what is the mineral that you're using now?
We use the Purina Wind and Rain because if we use just a regular mineral that is more of a powder consistency, because we're in the state of Florida, our humidity level is so incredibly high that it just absorbs the moisture from the air and it just becomes this big giant clump of goo and the goats won't touch it. The Wind and Rain, because it's more of a granular consistency, really holds well, and the goats really like it, and they do really well on it, so we just use that. It's actually a cattle mineral. So.
Okay. So each side, the goats have their minerals, so the Wind and Rain, and then baking soda. They've got a Himalayan salt block. Again, all this is free choice. More automatic waterers. And here's, this is kind of the charm of this system. So you see, again, we've got gates. So we can configure this however we want. So if we wanted to make this a small isolation pen, then we could. We just close this gate, swing it closed to that, and then we've got a small pen. Same thing if we wanted to do it here. We could make this into a small isolation pen as well. Then we got more gates here. So ultimately, we can configure this whole side of the barn by swinging these gates open, and just like this one is here, by swinging these open, we have one long chute that goes from the goat handling chute all the way to the other side of the barn, roughly 40 foot away. So we can get all of the does up in this one area to kind of do their checks. So the final pen, this is our show goat pen, and this all started with that lady right there. That is Pearl. Pearl is the grand champion at our local county fair last year, and I think she's trying to break my fence, so I'm gonna have to go out there and stop her. Beyond her are her two kids from this year. Both great size animals. We're maintaining her, or retaining her doe from this year, her little buckling. We'll go to some farm that I think they'll be fortunate to have them. These are some of our other goats. So that is our Nubian, one of our Nubians there. That's our other Nubian. And this is Eclipse for obvious reasons. Same configuration in this pen though. And here's a good example of how we can isolate these gates in whatever configuration. I'm not sure why LaLa's got this one locked up, but if we wanted to make one long pen, we just open all these gates all the way down through, and the goats can then go all the way down to the goat handling chute. Coming out here, we got another tartar feeder. Then we got this broody hen. She's been sitting in here for about 2 weeks, so I'm not sure what she's got up underneath her. Nothing. So she's not laying, she's just sitting there. She's broody. Got another Walsimer over here. Again, more automatic water feeders. Or waterers, I should say. And then here's another HD 200 feeder that we use just for this small bunch of goats. So that's the grand tour of the LaLa Farm livestock barn. Functionally, we're still learning how to best utilize it, but every design element that we put into the barn has turned out to be a great decision. It's working out exactly the way we wanted it to. I've always believed in the old adage, work smarter, not harder, and this barn allows us to work a lot smarter with a lot less physical exertion and chasing goats down. If you like the video, make sure to hit that thumbs up to like the video, as well as subscribe to the channel. We've trying to really hard to drive the subscribership to the channel, and that can only happen by trying to put out as good a content as we can, that's informative and kind of shows people how we live that homestead, small farm, family lifestyle. If you got any questions, make sure to include them in the comments below. We promise we'll get back to you within a short period of time. If you got any questions whatsoever about what we used, how we did it, why we did it, we'll try to answer those questions the best that we can. So thank you for visiting the farm, spending some time with us today, and always remember that golden rule: treat people as you would like to be treated. So until next time, again, thanks for visiting the farm. Be well. Bye-bye.